Hey, thanks for being a part of the conversation. Let's do some pod crashing. Episode number 310, the paths leading up to Unplugged and Totally Uncut.
You're listening to Chuck Boozer on Second Thought.
Arroe Collins. Good morning, Arroe.
Good morning, man.
Good morning.
To hear your voice, my God, I'm so glad that you're back on that.
Well, me too. I was hanging around the house too much. For those of you who don't know, Arroe was on the air for many, many moons here in Charlotte on, you were on WBT, BCY 107.9, whatever it is now. I'm not sure what it is now, but you were on Easy 104. Yes. You came with us. I'm trying to remember what year you came with, and I think it was we were Easy at the time. It was 104.7, but it was Easy at the time, owned by Easy Communications. When was that, 85, 86?
Yeah, you got it, man. You've still got your memory, dude.
Jeez, well, that's about all I got. I can tell you that. And so I remember when you came, and here's the great thing about Arroe, y'all, because in the days when Arroe came, and I can't believe it's been that far back, Arroe. Can you believe that you and I are still talking that many years later?
Oh, man, you're the only person in radio that I've talked to this long.
Wow, unbelievable. I'm not sure if is that a plus? Okay.
No, that's a plus.
Right.
That's a plus. We can always turn to each other. We have always done that.
Well, a great way to get yourself in those days was when we used to send cassettes, and that was your audition tape. Yeah. And so Arroe knows where I'm going with this. People would try to get noticed because cassettes would come in, and we'd use them to air check stuff. And you could sit with a PD somewhere, and he'd go through the air check session, and you'd hear about, if you got air checks from all over. If this was a job somebody wanted, you'd have 50 air check tapes. Yeah. And they were some of the good ones and some of the bad ones. And you'd have about 15 seconds. Boom, it'd be gone. That'd be somebody's air check tape. Boom, there's another one, somebody's air check tape. And Arroe's air check and resume came in a bounce box.
Yes.
And we knew this was about an unsealed bounce box. And we knew that there was a resume and a tape in there. And we looked at this thing, and I mean we, the staff, all the air guys, because we were like, wow, okay, you've got somebody's attention. And we wondered, this is completely sealed up. How did he open this and then seal it back to make it look like that? So you want to tell the story on that, Arroe?
Yeah, what happened was I remember being up at the library in Billings, Montana, and we came across the call letters of the station, and I kept saying, man, this is just rolling off my tongue so very easily, Easy 104 FM. And so, and Brian was with me at the time. He was almost like a producer when I was on Cook. And the thing is that he says, just send him an air check, but you've got to be different, because Brian was from Philadelphia, and he says, the only way you're going to get attention is you got to be different. So what I did was I took the bounce box and I very carefully opened it up, but I resealed it with super glue so that you couldn't tell that it was that it had been opened up. And the goal was to take the static out of any problems of finding somebody to do 7 to midnight radio. And obviously it must have worked.
Well, it did work. We decided to hire you. I say we. I wasn't, but we all said, man, this is creative. And we thought somebody that's that creative is probably going to be creative on the air. And you worked. I think you started doing nights for us, didn't you?
Immediately, yeah, 7 to midnight. But the goal was to make sure that we did nights in a very different way. And thanks to Bill Conway, he understood that I love doing specialty programming, so he gave me that task of putting 10 at 10 together, and that started everything.
Yes. So in the day also, I was there about 8.5 years, I think, at Easy Communications. It became K, it became Star, it became Mix during those times. It changed, same frequency, but it changed the moniker and stuff. And you did several things. I remember you were also at one time, and people say, really? But you were, well, let's bring him in to talk about it. Have you got a second, Casey?
Sure.
As a matter of fact, I do, Chuck. As a matter of fact, at one time, I was going to step down from the big, big voice in the sky, the countdown man, and I decided I needed a replacement. And Arroe Collins was number 2 on the list.
Arroe, what was the story? I mean, what happened? You actually tried out, and you were like top 2 or 3, weren't you, to replace Casey Kasem?
Absolutely. I beat out Donnie Osmond. And but Shadow Stevens got it. But hindsight, though, I totally understand. And I've learned through the ranks of Ryan Seacrest that you can't go to Los Angeles as a nobody. You've got to go out there as somebody. And so I learned from that. I mean, I was just some 25-year-old kid from Charlotte, North Carolina that was trying for this big job. But it's something that I've been doing my entire life, specialty programming such as countdowns. And so it just felt really fun to be able to have that opportunity.
So it says these days when we Wikipedia you that you're an influencer, movies, books, television, podcasting, mobile DJ. I know you did LA Productions. I guess I've known you and Lee, your bride, there for Lord knows how many years. We lived on the same street in the South Charlotte for years, and I told people that we borrowed rakes and things from each other. So When did you leave the on-air radio world and get into? I guess you're doing podcasts and things these days, and interviews. You're still in the media.
Yeah, what happened was that in 2011, I saw a television commercial for Chevy that said that Wi-Fi was going to be in cars, and that was a wake-up call for me. And I looked at my wife and I said, I've got to be in that car because I think that's where people are going. And so then what happened was that while being a production director for iHeartRadio, I was putting together all of my podcasts because I wanted to be, in this Wi-Fi world inside people's cars. And I remember them looking at me going, what are you doing again? And they would say, just keep doing it. We don't know what you're doing, but just keep doing it. And that's what I really tried to do was to create a platform where I could reach out there and really share stories with these musicians, just like Casey would do, or just like the inside sleeve of an album.
So, and I know is the podcast called Unplugged and Totally Uncut? Is that what you're still running?
That's one of 14 that I do.
Oh, just 14?
Yeah,
okay,
I just do 14 podcasts. That's it.
So, are we talking to stars? Are we talking to up and coming, established, or who are we talking to?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. In about 35 minutes, I'm going to be with Jane Seymour. So you tell me.
That's pretty good. She looks pretty good, I guess. Yeah. Not too bad. Medicine. What was it? Medicine Woman, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's cool. And I know for a long time you had something that you were doing movies and things. You were doing what are those? The previews and the preview showings and stuff like that before the movie comes out.
Oh yeah, like I've already seen Planet of the Apes. I've seen the new Mad Max movie. I see movies 2 and 3 weeks in advance, and really it's working one-on-one with the promotions department with the the biggest movie companies around the world.
So when did you leave? You were on the air doing a regular show, at WBT or BCY, and when did you leave the broadcast air and then really started things up?
So that was in 2016. It was shortly after my father's passing, and I really felt like that my father was the one that pushed me out the door. He says, you need to get on with your life and do something, make a difference. And I thought that this new frontier called podcasting was going to be that frontier.
That's fantastic. Have we been able to monetize this so we got stuff coming in the bank account?
Yeah, but that's the one. I'm so glad that you brought that up because a lot of people think they can do a podcast, but do they have the dedication, the loyalty, and the determination? And it reminds me so much of what Dan Miller told me up at Cook Radio back in the 1980s. And he said that anybody can be on the radio, but can they do it 6 days in a row and make every show brilliant?
And it's funny that you say that, Arroe. When I left Atlanta, McKee, I used to talk to Gary McKee down there. I think Gary was making, when I left in 84, Gary was making $600 a year. So that was pretty good money back in 84, and it's a lot of money these days. But he was doing a 4-hour shift, and he owned Atlanta. He was there 17 years. And I when I came up this way, he was my mentor. And I said, so he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to do you. And he said, well, I've learned from you. And he said, I don't know if you can be brilliant every day, but you can be pretty darn good. Yeah. And you want that consistency is what you're looking for every single day. Can you stay with another break here? Have you got time to stay for another break?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm glad you said yes. It's on the script there. You should have said yes. You know that. All right, so stay with us. We're visiting with Arroe Collins. He did lose out to Shadoe Stevens. Who's still doing the countdown? Is Shadoe still doing the countdown for have they buried Casey yet? Is Casey in the ground yet?
Boy, isn't that the biggest mystery? I heard that he's over in Sweden and that the family's trying to bring him back home, but they're having a tough time.
Gene kept the kids from him toward the end when he was sick, and $80 million. He amassed a fortune of almost $100 million, so that's what it was all about, and it was awful there toward the end and stuff, but I still love the Casey Kasem countdowns and things. Well, around the corner and around the nation, we're on our way to a brand new #1, and we'll do that before the hour's up here, I can tell you that. All right, we're talking with Arroe Collins this morning. Hang with us. We're going to come right back. The name of this show is On Second Thought. Chuck Boozer on WHKY. Stay with us. We're going to come right back. Arroe, I was just reading through. You started in Billings, Montana.
Yeah.
At KOYN, KOOK, WECC in Charlotte in 85 through 91, WAQQ from 91 to 93, WLNK from 93 to 05. You've written 3 books, 2 novels, 2 books of inspiration, articles for Music and Lifestyle magazine, movie critic for Pam Stone Show, and you were hooked up with Bob and Sherry at one time there, and just kind of, you've done whatever you need to do here. My gosh, you've done a lot of stuff. Yes.
I don't know what to say except for thank you. I mean, I thank God every day for this opportunity because I believe that that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. He's the one that put me on this microphone to help reach out there with people.
Well, I want to thank you for sending me that list of things that you've done. That's what I want to thank you for. No. I'm teasing. Let's see. What's it like growing up in Billings, Montana? I remember when you first got here. This is kind of a culture shock. And at that time, 85, 86, it was a little different. What's Billings? Billings back in 85, 86, I think was used to tell it was about 50,000 people. You can know almost everybody in town. And then you came to, quote unquote, the big city of Charlotte. It was culture shock, was it not?
Absolutely. It sure was. And it was what I think one of the biggest shocks about it was the fact that, this y'all thing. I mean, I just didn't understand what y'all was. But I'll tell you what, I bought a book from the old, the mall that was in downtown by the radio station, and it taught me how to understand Southern accents. I mean, it really did help me so that when people would call me from Albemarle or they'd call me from Gaston County, then I had a better understanding of what they were saying.
Had you never been out anywhere outside of Billings, Montana before you came to Charlotte? Did you grow up there? Is that where you were from?
I was born in Sheridan, Wyoming, but I mean, I went as far south as Denver and as far west as Seattle. So I mean, and Canada. I love Canada.
Yeah, but you came from an area where it's kind of sparse up there. It's kind of sparse in between cities and people and cows and everything else. I mean, it's just like open territory. That's a lot up there. That's a lot. Was that a real culture shock coming here? And Charlotte was only up and coming back in the 80s then. We just got in the bus mall.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a culture shock only because my entire life I knew that I didn't belong in Billings. I knew that I was going to be somewhere else, and so I prepared myself for that all the way through my education. I knew I was going to be in radio. I knew that radio was not going to keep me in Billings. I wanted out of there as quickly as possible. So I mean, I think that's the reason why I got married at the age of 18, so I could get on with my life and get out of Montana.
Yeah. Well, still married to Lee.
Yeah.
How many years?
32 years.
32 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And, I'm sure she's in line with my wife to get those medals because everybody goes, here's the medal for being with you. Yes, I've heard that a couple of times. Yes. So what all are you doing these days? Are you still working for Harris Teeter?
Yes, I love it. Chuck, I'll tell you what I love about that is the fact that I get to see real people. In radio, we envision people. And so when I was there at the register for the very first time, I just couldn't believe the shock. I mean, you talk about a culture shock. I was with real people.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I can tell that you love that, too, because I've talked to you many times. All right, listen, I know you've got another call coming up, so we're going to cut you off here and let you go because I know you got another interview to do. But I'm going to have everybody on the station here that I've ever worked with, just about, in all these years because there's so many great people like you. We've had Jim Schaefer on. I want to get the Eggman on. I want to get Liz on. I want to get... Bobby Lane and all these people. Boomer's still around there.
Yeah, he is.
So all the people we grew up with that are part of my life and part of my pages in my life. And I'm so proud to call you a friend still, Arroe. Mm-hmm. You're one of the nicest people I know. You're one of the best people I know, and I'm really proud. I mean that. And you're such a good radio dog, and I mean that with all the respect. You know, you just still love radio and stuff. So really appreciate you coming and talking with us for a little while this morning.
Thank you. You got to come onto my podcast, okay, so I can ask you questions next time.
Well, I'm an open book. That's no problem. We'll be happy to. My people call your people, which means I'll call you, of course. You know what that means. Yeah.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
I'll try my best. Thanks, Arroe.